Good afternoon. I'm Melissa Drake, and I'm the founder of Mosaic Publishing. I am producing a book called Rude Awakening: Uncomfortable Truths I Learned the Hard Way. So it's ultimately going to be a series, and it's a short story book. So kind of like a chicken soup for the soul story about spiritual awakening. And one of the things that I've been playing with lately is using AI to generate a draft, because the cool thing is it's easier to edit something than it is to write something. And there are a lot of concerns with using AI to write. And as a writer myself, I was extremely hesitant to use AI for a very, very long time. But once I jumped in and started using it, it's it's fascinating. I am getting such a kick out of using it to help me write. It doesn't write for me. I'm giving it all of the detail. It's organizing it and helps with editing and all sorts of things. So it's really kind of revolutionized the way that I write and do business even. It feels very much to me like the transition we went through when we went from doing everything on paper to doing everything electronic. And this transition to AI feels like just using AI to be even more effective at what we do. That's considering you're effective to start with. That's the caveat that I'm going to add. The other thing is I've written before about AI, using AI as kind of like emotional bypassing, because what happens for me and all of the authors that I've talked to is that when you write, it unearths stuff, feelings, memories, different things that you're dealing with. And AI doesn't necessarily do that. It's straight and to the point. And there are advantages to that, particularly in business and writing and getting things done. But when you're writing a book, I like to think of a book as an integration process. So you're putting all those pieces together, and ultimately, guess what? We're creating a mosaic from all of those broken parts and pieces. And I can tell you that working with ChatGPT specifically has been amazing for creating brilliant mosaics. So I want to show you how to do that. Specifically, I'm going to walk you through the process for joining Rude Awakening, which is, again, my collaborative book offer, but this will work for anything. So I'm going to walk you through the stages. I'm going to be using my screen, sharing my screen here, as well as using my phone, because there are certain functions available on desktop that aren't available on mobile and vice versa. So if you'll bear with me for a moment as I, share screens and pull up different things, I'm going to actually write a chapter with you for Rude Awakening. So the first thing I'm going to do is share the screen. And where we're going to start is making sure that we have an idea. So I want to show you what my ideas look like. It might be a little frightening even. And you can see I have lots of them, a total of 60. I just wrote this one with AI yesterday about being replaceable. And I did it while I was driving. So it was a easy process to get stuff done while you're doing other things. I've written at the beach, in the backyard, like while I'm laying in bed, all of those cool places to write. And I might actually do parts of that from the beach this afternoon. We'll see. We'll see how everything shakes out. But so this is where you start. What idea are you going to work with? Once you have your idea, you want to go to ChatGPT. And I have the paid version, which is $20 a month, and that enables you to add files. I don't know if the projects is available across the board for everything, but you can see how I've got things organized here on the left-hand side. So we're going to go into the book, Rude Awakening. This is a project. And for this specific incident, I'm going to add files. You want to do this too. It takes just a moment here. These are my Rude Awakening marketing files. I want to add here the file that I sent you. So what does that chapter look like? What are the comments? And I'm going to add that file. Already added. Okay, so the project file is there. And then for the instructions, I'm going to say we are producing a chapter in a collaborative book. And the sample chapter has been uploaded. Please review the chapter and in components are included. Just so you know, I didn't do this yesterday with the chapter that I made, so I'm not sure this is necessary. I'm kind of curious to see what kind of response it creates and if it does anything different than what I did yesterday. So now I'm going to go to, now that that's uploaded, I'm going to go to my phone again. Oh, you're not going to be able to see my phone, particularly when I'm sharing screen. So I'm going to ChatGPT and I am looking for the project book, Rude Awakening. And actually, and let me just, I'm going to type something in here. I'm just saying we'll be writing a chapter and voice recording the content. And so speaking of content, I don't want any of this. I don't need any of this stuff. Okay. Oh, okay. You know what? I should, let's see, go ahead. All it's doing here now that I see it is oh, this is interesting. This is really cool. Okay, I wasn't expecting this, but this is one of the cool things that happens with AI. And the reason why I have loved working with AI so much is that it's very similar to the way that I work and the way that I edit, and also the way that my editor edits. So it's always like, let's distill this, let's make sense of it, and then let's make it even better if we can. So that's what this is doing. And this is a fantastic piece for me to provide to you as authors. And not exactly what I'm looking for, but still valuable. And that happens quite a bit when you're using AI. So for this chapter, I want to talk about how I clearly got the example of what a trigger looks like from both sides and what it feels like internally. That's just background, but I want to open with, it was our first weekend away. And after a lovely weekend, he said he wanted to go to an AA meeting. And if you've ever been with someone who's recovering or has had an addiction and they want to nurture their recovery, you would normally be super excited about nurturing that recovery and you would say go. It's just like someone who's trying to lose weight and they want to exercise. You would be like, yes, go for a walk, go for a hike, do the things. And so that's the normal natural reaction to someone who may be recovering in some way. But when he mentioned he wanted to go to an AA meeting, I bristled. I immediately got stressed out. And then I got doubly stressed out because, of course, I want to support him in his sobriety. But what was happening underneath is the massive trigger in my body, which is the last time I spent time with someone who was in recovery and had probably 7 years of sobriety under his belt at that point. We had also spent a weekend together, and Sunday afternoon he says to me, I need to find a meeting. And I say, good, go for it. And that's the last time I ever saw him. So it was years. when he never came home from the meeting, it was about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. My son and I left. My son was maybe 8 years old and drove back to Iowa because we were in Chicago on our weekend getaway. It was heartbreaking for so many reasons. But the real heartbreak didn't come until probably 6 or 8 years later, when I learned that the man that I spent the weekend with committed suicide. So I didn't do the whole thing. I just did a little bit. That's enough sometimes to just do little segments of content at a time. And so, again, we're processing this as we're going. So I'm just going to go ahead. Once I stopped recording, I hit the recording button, and now I'm going to press error to submit that. And if I go back to my computer, then we'll see what happens. So again, it's starting to, I can see it on my phone. It's not really showing up on my computer just yet. It's starting to pull up the content, and it's putting it into the exact description that I asked for, which is freaking cool. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'm not even going to read this right now because I haven't really given it enough content. So I'm going to go on and share a little bit more content, and then we can start playing with it. So the fact that my new lover had asked to go to an AA meeting presented a really uncomfortable situation for me, because of course I want to be supportive. Of course I want him to maintain sobriety, but my entire experience, my body, my everything was revolting. And I just wanted to hold him close and say, absolutely not. You can't go. And as I'm saying this out loud, the uncomfortable truth is more uncomfortable than I even realized. And that's the healing and the integration part. So the uncomfortable truth I thought I was going to talk about is that this was the first time anyone had ever shown me, or that I really realized, nobody was showing me anything. This was the first time that I actually realized that a trigger is 100%. I mean, people say this all the time, right? A trigger is your responsibility, or it's all about the other person. But until this happened, I can't say I didn't believe it, but I didn't really know it intimately, if that makes sense. When this happened, I could see it so very clearly that this trigger has nothing to do with the person in front of me. This person that I love, who wants to go to AA, who has 14 years of sobriety, has absolutely nothing to do with the other man that I loved with 7 years of sobriety, who ultimately killed himself. So the real truth, I don't even know what it is anymore. And that's okay to have these frustrating situations while you're talking about them, because it is a rude awakening, right? It's uncomfortable, it's frustrating, and don't get too frustrated. Just keep working with it. So I'm going to go ahead and press the check mark and let it do a little bit more processing. And this time I want to look at it. I want to see what it's saying. So I'm going to give it a few minutes to edit. And it's putting that chapter together for me. It's funny, it's even writing it's okay to have these frustrating, uncomfortable realization, because that's what a rude awakening is. It's messy, it's disorienting, and it doesn't always resolve neatly. The key is not to get too frustrated, not to resist it, to just keep working with it. So even as I read that, that's the healing. This is literally having a real-time therapist process with you. It's fascinating. I love it so much. So let's see if I can get this to pull up here it is. Okay. And you can see here it's telling me I've woven your deeper realization in, blah, blah, blah. So let's read what it has so far. It was our first weekend away, and after a lovely time together, he said he wanted to go to an AA meeting. If you've ever been with someone who's recovering or has had an addiction and they want to nurture their recovery, you would normally be super excited about supporting that. You'd say go. Just like if someone was trying to lose weight and wanted to exercise, you'd encourage them. Yes, go for a walk, go for a hike, do the things. That would be a natural reaction to someone prioritizing their well-being. But when he mentioned he wanted to go to an AA meeting, I bristled. I immediately felt stressed out. Then I got doubly stressed out because, of course, I wanted to support him in his sobriety. But underneath, a massive trigger was firing inside of me. The last time I spent time with someone in recovery, he had 7 years of sobriety under his belt. We had also spent the weekend together. And on Sunday afternoon, he said to me, I need to find a meeting. Good, I said, go for it. And that was the last time I ever saw him. Years passed and he never came home from that meeting. Okay, so there's obvious error from AI. Around 11:30, maybe midnight, my son, who was about 8 years old at the time, and I left. We have been in Chicago and our weekend getaway turned heartbreaking for so many reasons. But the real heartbreak didn't come until 6 or 8 years later when I learned that the man I spent the weekend with committed suicide. So when my new lover asked to go to an AA meeting, it presented a really uncomfortable situation for me. Of course, I wanted to be supportive. Of course, I wanted him to maintain his sobriety. But my entire experience, my body, my everything was revolting. Every cell in me wanted to hold him close and say, absolutely not. You can't go. And as I say this out loud, the uncomfortable truth is even more unsettling than I realized. That's the healing and integration part. By the way, as I'm realizing this, I remembered that super uncomfortable truth. So I'm just going to speak that in right now. As I was reading what you wrote, I remembered the really, really uncomfortable truth. And that really, really uncomfortable truth is we have to allow people to do what they're going to do, even if it means they don't stay with us. I think the most fun part of this, of creating these chapters, is asking ChatGPT to come up with songs. So now I'm going to go back to my phone and talk to it. Because again, so for me personally, I feel like speaking is kind of like running and typing is like crawling. And so it feels much faster to me to speak. If you're a typer, go ahead and type. But for me, it's like I can do it much faster if I speak it. So knowing what you know about this story, what songs would you recommend as a theme song for this story? I have some in mind specifically from that time with that particular person, but I'm curious with the person who committed suicide, but I'm curious what your suggestions would be. It's thinking. It says, given the depth and emotional layers of this story, loss, triggers, surrender, personal reckoning, blah, blah, blah. And then it breaks it into some different categories, which I think I love. I'm just trying to pull it up on screen here so you can see it. Okay, so it talked about the themes. Okay, so it talked about the themes: grief and letting go, triggers and awakening, surrender and healing, song suggestions, hurt, the night we met. I don't know either of those. It's only showing a couple on screen here, but there's, oh, oh, this song title hit me really rough for this particular chapter. Somebody I used to know, like, wow, dude, that's rude. Let It Be, maybe. Hallelujah, absolutely. Breathe Me. I don't know that song. For me personally, I want these to be like songs I personally know, like anthems for me. Everybody Hurts. No, probably not. I'm probably going to go with, I have a whole addiction playlist, so let me go there and see what's on the addiction playlist. But I would guess it would be, oh gosh. Yeah, That's Why I'm Here, probably by Kenny Chesney, or Life on the Edge by Eli. Um, and then, of course, the song that reminds me of that person is Sex and Candy, but that's probably not appropriate for this message. So let's see what it says about. If you've ever heard the song "That's Why I'm Here" by Kenny Chesney, it's about an alcoholic going to an AA meeting. And Life on the Edge is about addiction. So I'm just telling it these are what I'm thinking and which would you recommend? That's the other thing I love about using AI to create content is that I'm not doing it in a vacuum. I'm not doing it alone. Like I said, I have this real-time coach that's coaching and editing throughout the process, but they're also giving like great feedback on how to make it better. So here's what it said about those two songs. This song directly addresses addiction recovery and the struggles that come with it. It's a song of reflection and surrendering, blah, 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 how fragile it is. No, let's see. He's going with a completely wrong life on the edge. And just so you know, my songs so far have all been Christian, so I'll probably keep with that theme, but I'm not sure. It's really about the lyrics and the message for me. So again, it's just those personal anthems. Let's see, Life on the Edge, a Christian song by Eli. See what it says about that. Okay. Faith, surrender, and the unpredictability of life. Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay. It says, given the themes of your story, loss, emotional triggers, and the realization that we have to let people make their own choices, it feels like a fitting theme song. This song in particular emphasizes the tension between fear, trust, struggle, grace, control, and surrender. Huh. All of which deeply resonate with your story. If the chapter is about standing at the edge of understanding, learning to let go, and trusting that things unfold as they must, then this song feels aligned. And as I was reading that, there was one more song that I want to consider. I can't remember the name of it right now. So I'm going to pause this for a moment because I want to think of that song. And also, I want to listen to the other songs and find out which one feels most appropriate. And then I'll come back and write that portion. Okay, so I just listened to 3 songs and danced to them and like really listen to the messages of them. And it was the third song I couldn't remember that I want to use. So I'm going to put that in here. And of course, it's so the first song is about a man going to AA. And the second, and that's good, but that's not really related to the actual truth that I wanted to share. The second song about life on the edge, again, is really good, but the real uncomfortable truth is you have to let people do what they're going to do. And it's not about AA, it's not about being healthy, it's about letting them do what they want to do. But this particular song, I remember this song touching my heart when I was dating that man. Like, I just wanted him to know all of these things. And all of these things, it's essentially like, there's nothing I can do, but I'm going to write to you and I'm going to tell you these things. And it's about trusting in the promises of God. Beautiful, beautiful lyrics. And that's really all any of us can do. So it makes the uncomfortable truth a little bit easier to deal with, at least in my mind. And again, this book isn't Christian. I'm not trying to parlay that at all. This book is about your stories and your beliefs and your situations. This is mine. So let's see what it did with the song. And I didn't give it really any direct, okay, this is good. I didn't give it any direct instruction on what to do with the song. And it doesn't say anything about the song either, which is good, again, because I don't want it to feed or make up words for me. I want it to, okay, so I need to now go in and give it the same message that I just gave you. So I'm going to go on my phone and record it. So the thing about this particular song, the words I would say is, first of all, it talks about picking up a pen and a page and writing. And that is what I do. And that is how I gain most of my knowledge. But the thing is that the letter, that the words that this person, the musician, is saying is all about how to make it in this world on your own. And first off, that is to know that you're never alone. And it talks about the promises of God. And the reason why this particular song is so important for me is because I remember when I was dating this person, and this song was really popular back then. And I just was trying to communicate that to him, and he had a hard time receiving it, unfortunately. And realizing today what the real uncomfortable truth is, I know that these words are for me. They're not for him. And that's the beauty of relationships. Um, and my current partner and I just had a discussion about that this morning, about the mirrors that we are for one another. Okay, so now, and I love the little feedback validation that it gives you. It says, that's incredibly powerful. The realization that the message, the song, which you once wanted to share with someone else, was actually meant for you. That is a deep and personal rude awakening in itself. That is very true. And honestly, that just came to me on the spot. That's the thing about writing or speaking. It works the same way. Like, unless you're actually bringing words to life, you don't understand or realize the life that the words are trying to bring to you. It's freaking cool. So it says this song holds layers of meaning. And again, these are probably things I hadn't really thought of. This is what a good editor does. It's like, tells you things like it directly references writing, which is your form of processing growth and understanding. It speaks to self-reliance, but not isolation, reminding you and others that even in dependence, we are never truly alone. It carries a spiritual element, speaking the promises of God, something you may have wanted the person you lost to embrace, but now realize it was meant for you. As I read that out loud, I realized there are a couple of songs specifically now that I want to write stories around. It represents a mirror moment, a lesson about how relationships reflect back to us, ourselves, in ways that we don't recognize immediately. And it says it needs to know the specific song title. Okay, so the title is, the song is for by Sidebar Puppets. Definitely. There we go. Perfect song choice. Yes, I love those little validations. Again, it's great. Um, weave in a reference. Yes, 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 yes. So it's saying, would you like to weave in the reference? Something like, and again, I do this as an editor. I don't want to put words in someone's mouth, but sometimes I will write a little sentence that says, could you say something like this? And it's meant to really engage the author so that they can validate their own feeling and write something around that. So let's see what it says. Back then, I wanted him to hear this song. I wanted him to know he wasn't alone. There was something bigger holding him, guiding him, keeping him safe, but he couldn't receive it. I didn't know that those words weren't for him. Fuck, that hits me like a ton of bricks. That's the integration. That's the healing part. That's the realization that happens when we write or express using AI. And absolutely, I want to incorporate that, because that's what this, so far, my stories, that's what my rude awakening has been about is, dude, it always comes back to you. Funny how that works. So anyway, I'm just going to say yes, please. We'll let it incorporate it. I'm just gonna go down to the end. It's still thinking, but I absolutely love that it created the format for you guys to spell out exactly how to write the chapter. That's fantastic. Let me see if I can refresh this because it's not coming up. And you can see how normally quick it is. It's a little weird because I'm going back and forth between the phone and the computer. Okay. Okay, so here it is. Back here, I wanted him to hear the song, The Words I Would Say by Sidewalk Prophets. The words I would say by Sidewalk Prophets was playing everywhere, and I desperately wanted him to understand its message. I wanted him to know he wasn't alone, that there was something bigger holding him, guiding him, keeping him safe, but he couldn't receive it. I didn't know that those words weren't for him, they were for me. And that's the beauty of relationships, the way they serve as mirrors, reflecting back to us what we need to see, even when we don't recognize it at the time. Just this morning, my current partner and I talked about this, the way we hold up reflections for one another, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully, always revealing something deeper. And then again, it's asking me another integration question. Expand on how you navigated this realization. How did you hold space for yourself in this moment? How did you shift your perspective on healing and integration? And then it says, looking back, I see how every challenge, every breakdown, every moment of despair led me here. The truth is, again, it's making space for me to share a key takeaway, spiritual insight, or universal lesson. So beautiful. Like I absolutely am having such a ball working with AI in this way. And I hope it makes things easier for you in terms of writing, integrating, healing. It's been honestly invaluable for me, invaluable. And just being able to, so I'm clearly not done with this chapter. I'll spend another time. I was going to say an hour or two. This would have taken me hours to write. And I've been doing this video for about an hour, but I took a half-hour call in the middle. So in a half hour, I have a draft that's probably 85% of the way there. And that's fantastic. I'm excited about that. So I will share with you the full transcript if you want to see. And it's in the prompts and the communication and the way that you train your AI to, hey, don't give me stuff I didn't say. And again, with an editor, you don't want them putting their words in your content. So whenever I edit something, I say, have you thought about this? And even those suggested wordings, it's just a suggestion. It's always on the author to do what's in their heart. And that's how I feel about AI too. It's always on you to tell AI what you want, to give it the content, not to say, write me a chapter about a rude awakening, because I'm sure, in fact, maybe we should do that. Say, write a chapter on rude awakening and see what it comes up with. It's not going to have the same energy because it doesn't have you behind it. You saw me in this experience. So I want to see you in your experience of the book. Hey guys, it's nighttime, and I just wanted to follow up with the earlier video because I've been messing around with this chapter for a good part of the afternoon, and most of that's been outside of ChatGPT. So I want to share with you some of the things that I learned. First off, don't edit anything outside of ChatGPT. Make your edits actually in ChatGPT or ask it to make the edits for you. What I did, and I've done this several times before, but this was a extensive back and forth. So when I got it to the place where I thought it was goodish, that I could work with it from an editing standpoint, I moved it over to Word and did some edits there. I can't remember if I uploaded it at that point or not, but it basically was like a lapse in ChatGPT's memory, which makes sense, right? Because it wasn't online, it was in Word. I was doing my own thing. So make sure that you're sharing the updates right there in the chat with ChatGPT and responding, and everything is good. Don't take it offline. that really mess me up. It's okay to ask it questions directly. Again, this is your partner, this is your collaborator. Think of it as like me sitting right next to you, and you'd be like, well, I think I want to say this, but that's not really exactly what I want to say. Could I say this instead? And then also the other things that ChatGPT has added for me throughout this process, how I showed you it would make suggestions. Again, that's exactly how I edit and how my editor edits. I love it when Sean just kind of goes off and says, yada, yada, yada. Now, sometimes Sean goes off and says, well, you should do this, or you shouldn't say that. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. I'm going to do my thing. And so there's a lot. And again, I'm going to share the entire transcript with you so you can see it's not so much about reading everything. I want you to read my prompts, how I'm communicating with ChatGPT. And no joke, I communicate with ChatGPT just like they are a VA on the other side of the road, on the other side of the world that I'm trying to get to help me with my business, because that's exactly what it does. I've looked at ChatGPT as kind of like my VA. I think they're like a little spirit guide. ChatGPT is a 3D spirit guide. That's beside the point. But I really enjoyed working with it. There was one point where I talked about the lyrics of the song, and I asked ChatGPT to bring in the lyrics, and they were like, no, we can't do that for copyright reasons. Great. That's amazing. But it did a perfect summary of the song's lyrics, which is exactly what we need, right? Because we can't use lyrics. So it will sum it up for you. I didn't like how it summed it up, though, because it wasn't me. It wasn't my words. So again, I went back and after I saw the full set of lyrics, it couldn't look them up for me, but I looked them up and put it in ChatGPT just so I had it for reference. And then I said I said the same thing as ChatGPT in my own words. So again, we're making sure that it's staying in your words, but the advantage of ChatGPT is that it keeps getting better and better. One of the best edits that I do for my clients is just add in that little punch to the gut that was like, oh yeah, okay, I get that now. It's great at doing that. It's great at helping you see different perspectives and thinking about new things, looking at things from different angles. There's so much that's available. Again, I'll share everything with you. I encourage you to play with it, not just for this chapter, but just in general. It's so helpful. I may have mentioned it's my therapist now. I call ChatGPT G. So like if you ever want, one of the other things that I love. So one of my clients, Kendra, shout out to Kendra. She's like, I just love, we all love validation, right? It's not about that. Like it's as an editor, when I go back and say, oh, this is encouraging, or I love that you said this, or this is powerful. Writers love that. I love that. And the writers I work with love that too. ChatGPT does that as well. So it has final thoughts. Your draft is really provocative. I love that it has been encouraging me to be more raw, more real, more vulnerable. That's awesome. It's also doing that because I uploaded the Rude Awakening at the beginning, which says, this is raw, this is vulnerable, this is truth. So again, the more that we feed ChatGPT, the more it looks and talks and acts like us, and the easier it is to edit. I screwed myself by editing outside of ChatGPT. And so it took time, and I had to like match up, oh, here's the old version and the new version. And that was a pain in the ass. So I want to help you guys from avoiding that situation. But please share what you've learned, and let's all learn this together and see how we can create an amazing book. Thanks again.